from my standpoint, and I don't speak for everybody, claim to speak for black people. I'm just a guy with the platform, and this is my statement about it. This is the United States of America. Today, we ushered in a new era. It is a new era. What has gone down today hasn't gone down in a long time in this country. I'm not sure that politics will ever be the same after this. But this new era that we've ushered in, it's hard to speak on it because it's filled with so much uncertainty. In this election, we didn't get to no longer a society. We're not about issues. We are about he say, she say. I've never seen a campaign ran like this before, and I'll be 60. I don't remember a lot, but I had some critical moments in my life. I remember coming to the house and my mother was at the ironing board crying when JFK was shot. And I remember my father coming home and my mama was crying at the ironing board. My daddy said, "Baby, what's wrong?" She said, "Lord Jesus, what we gonna do now?" Because Kennedy fought so hard for blacks, and they made black people actually think that someone cared. So I remember that. I also remember Martin Luther King being shot in '68. I was in the 6th grade. I remember watching the teacher brought a TV into class, and I watched the hearse being drugged down Pennsylvania Avenue. And that began a downfall in my attitude. I did not understand why they killed this man who was always talking about us loving one another, and black children and white children holding hands and having a dream that one day this country would be all that it was printed up to be in the Constitution, and it would live up to its creed. And I remember that. I remember the Vietnam War. I remember my brother being sent away. I remember my brother coming home. I remember lunch sit-ins at counters. I've seen signs, colors only, water fountain signs. I'll be 60. So I've seen a lot. Until I was of age. But I've never seen an election like this that was so ran on so few issues. We just ran on he said, she said. We talked about who slept with this person, who touched that person, who said this, who did that, who stole this, who did that. I just never, it was just crazy what we did. But in this election, I also learned what I learned a lot of times before, that we as people, all people, we take so many things for granted. For example, the vote. The vote was taken for granted. So many people think that they have the right to sit out voting, that they have the right to say that I'm not choosing one candidate or the other because I don't like either one of them. I don't know when a presidency of the United States became a popularity contest. It has nothing to do with experience anymore. That's been proven. It has nothing to do with record. That's been proven. So it became a popularity contest. Two candidates who had unfavorable marks on both sides. I don't know if we really understand what we've done because a new era is coming. But I do know one thing about it as an African American, that we don't have the luxury to act like others simply because we don't get treated like others. So how you think you can act like others and get treated different when you don't get treated like others is beyond. You can't say what you want to say. You can't get pulled over for traffic violations. You can't have something in your hand. You can't put your hands up and say, "Don't shoot." You can't run. You can't have a cracked tail light. You still can't play your music too loud. You just, what? So for those of us that set it out, who set it home, you know who you are. We didn't have that luxury. We didn't have that luxury because too many people died so we could vote. But a lot of us didn't exercise that vote. But it wasn't just blacks. I ain't gonna do that to us. We could have done better. We could have done something different, all of us. All minorities could have done something a little bit different this election. A lot more women could have done something a little bit different this election. I get the disenfranchised, the people who feel like they want something different in Washington. And like he said, I'm going to go to Washington, I'm going to drain the swamp. Well, great slogan, but what does that mean? Swamps still exist. There are still Democrats and there are still Republicans. There's still the House, there's still the Senate, and there's still your power of veto. It's the same swamp. It's just got different people in control of the swamp. Now, if he can get in there and change it, I wish him well. I hope he does. And I hope that he's right, that he can bring a change in this country. The problem is, in this new era, we don't know what the change is. I don't know what he means by I'm going to make America great again. We're going to go back to when America was great. Well, how far are we talking about going back? Because going back for us don't mean the same thing as going back for you. I pray you're right, but it's hard to be right when so many wrongs have been said. How do you take the divide that's been created in this country over 18 months with the talks about our Latinos, women, minorities, gays, the wall, the Muslims? How do you bring that together? What is that? And you ran on a platform that made people come out the woodwork to vote, that made the Klan endorse a president for the first time that I can remember, Klan newspaper. So what are you going to say now to close that divide where people on social media now are saying so many hateful things? So I'm just curious, what we going to do now? How do we close the divide? What are we going to do different? I hope what he said in his speech last night was real. I hope that he goes to these inner cities and he makes them safe again. But you ain't going to make them safe again with the stop and frisk. You're only going to make these inner cities safe again with jobs and opportunities and education. Because when the disenfranchised feel like they're not a part of the American dream, then they create their own American dream. And oftentimes it ain't a dream because it ends in a nightmare. So what we going to do now? Donald Trump never badmouthed Bush. Through Katrina, through all of this, I just felt like the government could have done more. But I never badmouthed him. I won't badmouth this one. But we got to do something, man. Because now it's on and cracking. Because now all this rhetoric talk, we're going to have to back it up with fact. Do I think a wall is coming? Yeah. Do I think the wall will fix anything? No. Do I think that Statue of Liberty should still stand for bring me your huddled masses? Yep. But it can only bring me your huddled masses if you come from Europe or if you come from Cuba. But you can't come across the border south no other kind of way. It ain't for you in Jamaica. It ain't for you in El Salvador, Colombia, Mexico. That's not what that stands for. If there was a way that these immigrants could come over here and file and get a legal way in, I would understand it. But there ain't no legal way into this country. That's why so many run over here by the thousands, try to seek the American dream, because majority of the immigrants that come over here are hardworking people. They're actually the fiber of this country. So what we gonna do? What we gonna do now? We left with this to deal with. I suggest to all of you, if you're a person of faith, get with it. Because if you ain't never needed him, you need him now. We'll still be here. I thank God for his word.
For all Steve Harvey contests, no purchase